Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Puppet Masters and Castle Freaks, the internet's leading all things Charles Band podcast. I am one of your hosts, Jared Hornbeck, a wart on the asshole of the universe, coming to you from Brooklyn, New York. But no, I am not maneuvering around these air ducts as a little 13-inch man by myself. Who's here with me?
Well, this is Steve Guntley here in Austin, Texas. And you know what? I didn't really have time to put together a clever little tagline. So I'm just going to cobble together three others and just pass that off as a new tagline, if that works for y'all. This is the podcast about magical bum blood, giant toast, and of course, baby doll love. That's because this is the podcast about Dollman versus demonic toys, the first and really only kind of grand crossover event of the Full Moon universe. Something that kind of tries to span and unite a couple of different films. Really, this is the prototype for the Avengers. I think if anybody is curious about where the Avengers came from, if you want a film with the same level of polish, the same level of engaging content, wit, humor, action, excitement, I think Avengers owes quite a lot to Dollman versus Demonic Toys. And we do have somebody else.
There was a scene, you know, when Tracy Scoggins' cop said on your left, I teared up a little bit.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It was very touching. But we do have a special returning guest here with us today. Jared, who's joining us today?
Of course, we do have another wonderful returning guest. She is a YouTuber, content creator, movie reviewer, interviewer, internet journalist, and a host of the wonderful Horror Movies and Beyond YouTube channel and podcast. It's Ivotres Littles, who is back to join us again. And, you know, last time, little prestige, Clive Barker, little Rawhead Rex. No. This time, it's Dollman versus Demonic
You're
Toys.
getting in the muck with us today.
Thank you for agreeing to do this and for being here.
Well, thank you for asking me. I had fun the last time, so I was like, yes. When you ask again, I was like, of course. I don't mind coming on here. It was a lot.
Oh, we love it. We love having you. Did you think that when you signed up to do this one, you would have the less dignified movie than the one where a monster pees all over a priest?
I actually missed that one.
Yeah, right.
Compared to this one.
Oh, yeah,
that one I love.
That's a Gosford Park compared to this. It's like a Tony,
we realized
like a period drama.
Two different cuts of the movie on that one. That was one of the funniest moments of that recording. Was that Steve and I were very pointedly making reference to this one scene, and you just kind of stared at us like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Hey, it happens. We're excited to have you back. Now, was this a film you had seen before you chose to come on this one, or did you spin the wheel, so as it were?
You know, it came out in '93, so as I was looking at it, I was like, I did not see this, but then there were some things in it that I kind of remember, but I don't remember. But I remember seeing Demonic Toys, so I must have went in blind for this one. Like,
no, you did not go in blind. You saw 33% of this movie.
Yeah, you did. You saw plenty of recycled footage from that movie and from other movies. So yeah, if it looked a little familiar, it did to us too. Yeah.
Well, those parts, but as far as as it was going, the story, I was like, I don't remember this. Remember those parts, but not the actual movie.
As the movie hybrid, it's pretty strange, and it really is a movie conglomerate of three existing things trying to find a way to make them cross over. Try is the operative word here, but let's call this a movie for right now. And Steve, why don't you give us argument's sake of this particular movie that we're talking about today?
Absolutely. Dollman versus Demonic Toys, or as it's called on screen, Dollman versus the Demonic Toys. I'm glad they cut the, it's cleaner. It was released on October 13th, 1993. It was directed by Charles Band, written by Craig Hammond, and it stars Tim Thomerson, Tracy Scoggins, Melissa Baer, Philip Brock, Phil Fondacaro, R.C. Bates, and the voice of Frank Welker. Oh boy, they must have shelled out for Frank Welker on this one, let me tell you. So at the height of the Full Moon Paramount era, Band was really going full steam trying to fill out his library of hits. There's a great anecdote in the book, It Came from the Video Aisle, which we reference a lot on here, from Ethan Reef, who is a screenwriter. He took some meetings at Full Moon, and he said he recalls coming into the conference room at the Full Moon Studios, and there was a big banner on the wall with 200 empty poster frames, and it said 200 by 2000. So basically they meant they wanted to make 200 Full Moon movies by the year 2000. That was kind of their ambitious plan. This is 1992 at this point, so that's crazy.
Well,
So
I'm going to stop you right
there,
there, Steve, because there's a flaw in their plan.
Yeah.
What they could have done was made 70 movies, and then just spliced a third of each one together.
See, that's some math right there, and I'm not even going to double check that because I'm just going to assume it's right. But yeah, they could have been doing
they
that.
could have made like 60 movies really good.
Exactly. Yeah, that seems like that would be the model.
Even
like 60,
never even crossed their mind.
You just say, okay, how about this? We'll compromise. 75 like 3-star movies. How about that? 75 3 out of 5.
Okay.
Let's do that. Let's aim for mediocre by 2000. But like they definitely were wanting to churn these out. And at the height of the Full Moon Paramount kind of partnership, that seemed pretty possible. They had a lot of steam. Their movies were doing well. They had this big fan base that they were building up. Paramount was happy with the output. So they wanted to really kind of hit the gas and get these out as quickly as they can. We've talked many times about how Charles Band loved the Marvel Universe. He's been obsessed with Marvel Comics. He was a kid, and he's been planting the seeds for doing these kind of crossover events the same way that Marvel Comics used to do back in the day. We talked a little bit about Invisible and Mandroid, which I believe both come out after this, but that's kind of part of the whole process of trying to cross over these superhero characters. But Dollman was going to be a big part of that universe, because he's not quite a horror character like the Puppet Master or the Demonic Toys characters are, so he fits a little bit more into this sort of superhero milieu that they're going for. And it makes sense to bring it back in. Dollman was a successful enough movie. It was as far as like us covering the movies on the show, Dollman is still one of the more frustrating movies for me because it's the one that I like the most on paper and then kind of the least in execution. Like, I love the idea of Dollman. I think that is such a funny way to kind of deflate these tropes.
Was there I don't know this.
Oh yeah,
I probably should know this, but was there a movie called just Dollman?
There absolutely is. So what you're getting with this movie today is Dollman was one movie, Demonic Toys was another movie, and then Bad Channels is the third one. And it's taking characters from those 3 movies that had all come out, I think, the year before this, and crossing them all over into the same universe. So
yeah, I think Dollman was the first one. I think Dollman was 91, and I think both Bad Channels and Demonic Toys were 92.
Yeah, I believe so. And so the Dollman, his whole origin story, it's a very funny idea. He's a very tough, like no nonsense cop. And when we first see him, we think he's just kind of in a slightly futuristic city. Then we realize he's actually on another planet where everybody just looks very humanoid and they act like Dirty Harry style cops. He gets into a spaceship, he flies and crash lands on Earth and discovers that on Earth, he is only 13 inches tall. Everything else is the same about him. It's just his species is significantly smaller than our species. That's a really funny idea for a movie because he's still macho. He's still like full of all this like action movie bluster, but he's just a teeny tiny little guy. I think you get some opportunities for great comedy in there. I think Tim Thomerson is a great choice for this part. But that movie didn't come together, partially because it was being directed by Albert Pune, but also because it was being directed by Albert Pune, who was working on 2 movies at the exact same time and splitting his focus. So it's like you're getting a half quality Albert Pune movie, which is already about a 8th quality of an average movie. So.
Well, I will step up and defend Albert Pune here, at least being a person who's often the person responsible for at least interesting trash, if nothing else.
Oh yeah.
And I find that I'm a little more forgiving of this. And this is one of the areas where we sort of don't agree. I like Dollman a lot.
Right. No, and I think that one is just one that didn't hit for me because I kept thinking of all the ways you could punch this up and make it like a really good movie instead of like a pretty fun trifle of a movie.
Well, I've never seen Dollman.
Yeah, it's worth
So
checking out. If
I
there's
guess
yeah.
looking at this movie, I was just I just thought it was, they just made a movie, put two and two together. Like,
See, that must have been so jarring then, because like this
yeah, I was
movie
like
just
demonic toys and then versus Dollman. I just thought it was like a continuation of that. I didn't even know that there was a Dollman.
I mean, they
it's like Full
throw
Moon
you in.
3.
Yeah, they throw you in so abruptly. It's ridiculous. Like, that must have been jarring because they just don't explain who he is or what his deal is or any of that. It's like this really bizarre cold open that feels like it ends mid-sentence, and then we get a really long credit sequence. I don't know.
Well, before we're introduced to the demonic toys or to remind me, what's the nurse's name?
Oh, Nurse Ginger. Yeah.
Nurse Ginger. Sorry. From Bad Channels. Before we're introduced to them, we're introduced to Brick Bardo first, hitchhiking, giving us a little backstory of Dollman. And honestly, what this really felt like is like we were about to watch Dollman season 2, and we were getting the like season recap for season 1.
Yeah, but like it's like we're getting a season recap, and it's like a bad VHS dub, and somebody like started the recording too late, and we're missing all the important features there. It's like it was so abrupt. But basically, Dollman comes out in the very beginning of this and says that he's looking for this Ginger chick. Okay, we have no idea who Ginger is, like, coming into this. So for a little context on this, Ginger is a character from the movie Bad Channels that came out in 1992. It's pretty fun. It's a Ted Nicolau movie where aliens come to Earth, they take over a radio station, and the radio waves suck women through the radios into this parallel dimension where they are trapped in a music video. And then when the music video ends, they are shrunk down, put into a jar, and kept as specimens.
Well, they pretty much showed you that.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I was like, oh, okay, that's how she got small.
Right.
But
yeah, they have
the intro to this. I have to say something about this.
Please,
intro.
please.
It took 4 minutes and 40 seconds, just the credits, and I was sitting there. I was like, okay, when it's going to begin? And then I just paused it and looked at the time, and I was like, wow, that's the longest. It was unnecessary.
Here's the thing. This is what I realized about this movie, because Ivotres, I was doing the same thing a lot. I was breaking it down into time chunks because I'm thinking this is a 64-minute long movie. All right. Even for a full moon, that's very short, especially around this time when they're making things like typically around like theatrical length. So if you were to break this down in like pie chart kind of chunks, opening credits, 5 minutes. All right. Already you've got a big chunk of your movie gone. You're taking recycled footage from the other 3 movies. That's another 30 minutes. Okay. If you take Baby Oopsie making rape jokes, that's another 15 minutes. That leaves you with about 15 minutes of content around there, if my math is right. Like, it is so unpleasant. And I'm going to go on a whole Baby Oopsie rant.
Oh, you sure are. I know it's coming.
God, do I hate that baby.
If this is your first episode of this show, and maybe you saw it because Ivotres promoted it, and you were like, let me check out this show that she's on, and you hear what we're talking about, but you're not as familiar with like Full Moon or these kind of crossover movies, but you do know a lot of horror movie stuff, I'm going to put this in terms you'll understand. This movie adopts the Silent Night, Deadly Night 2 school of filmmaking.
Absolutely. Yes. I was thinking, I just could not stop thinking of Silent Night, Deadly Night 2 this entire time, because I think until this one, I think that was the film that had the most recycled footage that I'd seen and still tried to pass itself off as a movie. I think this one beats it, because there are the obvious like flashback sequences where they're very ham-fistedly kind of recapping the other movies. But then there's a lot of establishing shots, action shots, things like that were just wholeheartedly harvested from the other movies. So there's very little actual original footage here. Even Tim Thomerson, who is pretty game to do a lot of these movies, never really has a bad thing to say about anybody. He thought this movie was a piece of shit. He's just like, oh yeah. It's like, yeah, I had a good time making it, but it sucked.
The movie felt unnecessary. Like, I was trying to watch it and see what I could get out of it. And I just felt like there was nothing there. It just, I don't know. Like, I just felt like this was the worst choice of picking movie I've ever done.
Yeah.
Like, my God.
I'm sorry you got stuck with this one. I don't think I was expecting it to be this bad. So I've gotten some flack. I think both of us a little bit, but maybe more me because I think I come down a little harder on it. But I do not like the demonic toys. And that's a big movie for a lot of our listeners and a lot of our fans. And from Ivotres' face, I think that's a movie for you too. Or
well, I've only seen it once.
Yes.
But I do remember it. But I saw it when I was a kid.
Okay.
I never saw it as an adult.
I'm going to run this joke into the ground, but Ivotres, you've seen it 1.5 times now.
Yes, here we go.
you know, funny you should say that, because as I was watching this one, it brought back memories. Like, oh, I remember all that. Oh, I remember that. And
yeah,
I remember the demon baby and all that. I was like, ew, you know, yeah.
We both came down pretty hard on demonic toys when we reviewed it the first time, because I think both of us were sort of like, they're seeds of something that could be really, really interesting here, but we just weren't really fans of kind of where they went with the demonic toys. And both of us are not fans of Baby Oopsie. But I will say, as time has gone on, I've found myself thinking back to demonic toys, thinking like, well, what is it that people who saw this when they were young, other than being young and maybe like less discernible movie viewers, were latching onto? And I started to think about the things in the movie that we talked about that worked, like the kind of surreal, dreamlike sections and the demonic little kid.
Yeah.
And some of the stuff that they were doing. And I said, there's things about the movie I don't like, but it's sort of grown a little bit in my estimation. Like,
yeah,
I feel like I've sat with it for enough time now.
Yeah, exactly. The more demonic toys content we take on, the more I appreciate that first movie. Sorry, I cut you off there, but yeah, it's I'm with you on this on that page.
See, when I watched it, this is going to sound weird.
No.
Maybe that's why I refuse to watch it now for some reason. Like, I don't know. But when I was a kid watching it, for some reason, I understood what was going on, which I had no business. I think it came out on video. The first one came out on video, Demonic Toys, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I believe I saw it around that time when it came out, which was what, 92? 92?
Pretty sure. Yeah, 92.
Okay, so I was like 12.
Yeah.
There, I aged myself for everything. But as I was watching this, I developed a crush. Only when I was a kid. This is when I was a kid, on the demon kid. Like,
interesting.
For some reason, I don't know. I was kind of like, I wanted to be his friend. I understood what he was doing and why he was doing it, and it was okay. Eyes. Yeah, maybe so. But as an adult, I'm probably like, what's going on with this movie? But it was a weird time for me. I was watching, I think Child's Play 2 was out around that time. Like, there was a lot of demon young things going on with kids and all that stuff. So
Macaulay Culkin was throwing dummies off the freeway.
Right. Yeah.
yeah. That's like The Good Son.
Yeah. You're gonna get that Carpenter Village of the Damned remake a little bit after that. Yeah. So there's a lot of that
going on.
There were a lot of demon kids around that time, and that was something Demonic Toys did well, you know. But yeah, like I said, the more there's just something weirdly. Full Moon is both precious with Demonic Toys and kind of indifferent to them. Like, there's no consistency in the lineup. Like, this movie introduces a new fourth toy. They get rid of the robot and they introduce this new like action figure guy out of nowhere. There's no.
Big mistake. They got rid of Grizzly Bear.
Oh, they got rid of Grizzly Bear.
Okay.
Okay.
Big mistake.
Because I knew something was missing. Like, as I was watching the character, when they popped up, and I was like, I felt like something happened. Like, something wasn't right. So yeah.
Yeah, I don't understand why they mixed up the lineup. Maybe they couldn't get Michael Deke to put that suit on again or something, but I doubt that's a problem for him. I mean, he's always putting on a suit, but you know, like it was weird that they left out that character and then they introduced this new one with no context. Now, like, a lot of this movie kind of just feels like it's teeing up a real movie. You know, it feels like this is sort of like the this is like when you're a kid and you get an X-Men comic book, but it comes in like a box of cornflakes or something. So like it's kind of bridging a story, but it's also like it can't be official because, you know, they keep talking about how great cornflakes are. Like
It's the first like Sunday comics panels of a 6-month storyline.
Exactly. And you're just like, I don't have the attention span to follow up on this. Mary Worth, come on, leave me alone. But
I was thinking, sorry, Ivotres, I was
ahead.
thinking specifically of, I don't know if you remember these, the Spider-Man comics
I do
that were in the
remember Spider-Man.
newspaper. And that would be the thing, is it would be like 4 panels of like one little scene.
Yeah.
Spread out over what felt like 18 years.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it took forever to resolve those, and they were always like so tedious. Yeah.
Continue.
I forgot what I was going to say. Wait. Oh, you know what? Out of all those characters, I actually like Baby Oopsie, but not what's coming out of its mouth.
Yeah.
That was just nasty. I was like, ooh, who wrote this? And why is the actress? There was not enough money they could have gave me to play her part. Not because I didn't like her part. It was just that bedroom, that bed. I was just.
Oh, you're talking about the nurse. Yeah.
Yeah, the ginger. Yeah. Oh. That was just nasty. And then whoever was wearing that giant baby outfit, their ass whooped. I mean, it was just what I probably walk off the set. I don't know.
I was right there with you. I wrote that note. Like, a lot of these movies put the actresses through a lot. You know, they need to walk around naked. They need to get torn up and assaulted and things like that. This feels like, for me, if I were on this set, if I were in her position, this would be a bridge too far. Absolutely. This is just a little humiliating. Like you have to be like, you know, and if you've ever been on a film set, there are usually long moments like in between takes, right, where they need to reset stuff up. And so she's just probably sitting here tied to this bed, looking around. There's a guy with a baby doll head, and you're just thinking like, man, what happened to my life? Like, what am I doing in this piece of shit?
And not to mention, I mean, the whole crew, depends on how many they have, is just staring, looking at her. It's like, I don't know. Like, it's not the character. It's not her, the person.
No,
it's not what she was doing, because she wasn't that bad. It was just the context of how that was set up, and the way it was like those big hands and rubbing on her and touching her. I was like, this is. And I've seen a lot of horror movies with all kinds of things, and it doesn't really bother me. But this one, I was just like, okay, this is a little too rapey.
I mean, it absolutely was, and it felt endless. It was just a nonstop stream of real groaner one-liners from Baby Oopsie, like things that just don't even make sense. And I'm not going to repeat any of them because fuck this movie. But like, no, I'm not going to do that. But that was one of those moments I felt really embarrassing. As a kind of like side note on the Nurse Ginger character, I did want to go back to that because a weird thing happens with that character. All right, so in Bad Channels, Nurse Ginger makes it out. Okay, she gets out of the bottle, returns to her original size, and there's a post-credit sequence in which a different character, kind of like the ditzy, like beach blonde girl named Bunny, she is still trapped in the bottle. All right, so she is the one who's been shrunken down, but I guess they just couldn't get the actress to come back, and instead of recasting the part or changing the name, they're just like, okay, let's just grab a different character, pretend it was her that was shrunk the entire time, not explain it for a second, and then move on. So that was not the character that shrunk down in the first in Bad Channels. They just kind of found whoever was available.
Really?
Yeah, and that's the thing that's infuriating about this, because for all that Charles Band talked about wanting to do a shared universe, for wanting to have all these big crossover events, when he finally got a chance to do one, he feels less invested in this than maybe any other movie he's made in this era. Like, this is one that he directed too.
Exactly.
I haven't seen a lot of his movies, but watching this one, it just felt like there was no. I mean, you should love what you do. I don't care how you do it or what what position you're in. Yeah. It just felt like he was bored and just wanted to hurry up and put something together.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we try we try to be less hyperbolic when dealing with some of these movies, and we try to find the positives in them and talk about them. And I believe it or not, I mean, for the first half of our conversation here, we said a lot of negative things. I do have positive things to say about this movie,
Okay.
but normally we kind of try to front load that stuff because we want to show people like we're not here to drag these movies through the mud. We're not here to take a shit on them. But the thing is, this movie, I think you totally nailed it, is it seems like there's no real investment.
None.
It's like, okay, well, let's take this and this and this and kind of put them together. But there's a certain care that goes into a lot of, especially, well, I don't want to say, I was going to say especially the Paramount era, but I don't even know if it would be just that, because I think there's some really neat stuff they do in the Kushner-Locke era,
Oh,
even
of
working
course.
with smaller budgets.
Yeah.
But I think for this, like, you think about whether or not Invisible and Mandroid really work. We said like Mandroid on its own doesn't quite hold up. Invisible is a better movie, but taken together, you can kind of see what they're going for. And then you have going into 1993 into 94, a lot of what people consider to be the best of the full moon in that kind of classic Paramount. I mean, you've
Right.
got Subspecies 2, you've got Oblivion, you've
Mhm.
got Dark Angel, you've got these other movies that we've said a lot of really nice things that hold up as movies that were made with attention and care,
Yeah.
and don't even necessarily need the descriptor of being a good full moon movie.
No,
They're just effective little movies on their own.
they are. Yeah.
But this feels like a product that nobody, well, it seems like it feels like an afterthought.
It does.
Like you said, Steve, that this was something being kind of shot while other people had 10 things going on at the same time and were putting more time and effort into something else. And I think maybe there was a naivete on Charles Band's part here, where he thought just getting these characters together into something would be enough.
Right. Yeah. Like
But
the
it
sparks
doesn't
are just going to
have,
be there. Yeah.
right, but it doesn't feel like he's invested. I mean, you said it before. Tim Thomerson, always game,
Yeah.
always awesome. Not given enough Brick Bardoing to do in this movie. If
No.
I'm being honest, I mean, they used him for 1 week. I think they said in the
Yeah.
book. Said 1 week of shooting. He basically did the old. I've read his Michael Caine quote about it, where he's like, "The movie's terrible, but the money was good."
Right. Exactly. Like I've seen. I haven't seen the movie. I hear it's quite
I-
poor, but I have seen the Beach House at Bobby, and that's lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to go back on something you said, like, you don't want to like rip a movie to shreds or
Yeah.
something like that. But I think, I think at some point, I mean, I think it's okay you can, because he put out something that was not, it's not that it wasn't good, but anyone could see that it just was not invested, just like you said. But throwing these characters together into something that, just felt like, what was the whole purpose? Because I think he had a chance to do that. But the question is, why didn't he? Why didn't he take the time to do it? I mean, they invested to make a decent Demonic Toys. Why not do it for this one? Like, if you have to rush, or there's budget issues, or 20 people doing 20 different things, then why not just say, okay, let's do something else? And I see that a lot in films, regardless if they're indie or big budget. It's just so much rushing to get something out, and the quality is shit. And
Exactly.
and there's no excuse, because this is his own product. So
exactly. Yeah.
I find disrespectful to his film.
Right, and people have a nostalgia for the first Demonic Toys, and probably have some nostalgia for this as well. Like, people have nostalgia for Dollman and Bad Channels and all of those full moon movies they rented as a kid off the shelves. But I also, I don't mind kind of talking sincerely and kind of candidly about this movie, because I also feel like if I was just to run into Charles Band and say, oh, I mean, I've been watching all your stuff for the show, Dollman versus Demonic Toys doesn't really work, does it? He'd probably be like, no, not really.
Yeah.
And then he'd move on with his day.
Have you ever met him?
No, not yet.
Not to this point yet.
We're hoping to have him on the show at some point, but we're saving that for the right time. But yeah, I'm with you on all of that. Like, I feel like if there was one movie to just slow down, invest a little bit more money into, put a bit more pomp and circumstance into, it would probably be this one. Because if you can make this work, if you can make this crossover universe work, as we've seen in modern filmmaking, you're printing money. People are way more invested in it. And that's another thing that the Marvel movies kind of got right compared to this model. They understood that the crossover was the big event, right? So you build it up, you make it, you hyper inflate it, and you break out the big guns. They have some very creative, hardworking people at Full Moon, and a lot of times they're a little hamstrung by the budgets and by the timelines, but you could have done something so fun with this. Like, I appreciated that they had one scene where they built a gigantic drawer set for Nurse Ginger to live in. Okay, so she's like living on this desktop with a giant Frosted Flakes box.
I have to say that's actually, I want to say there's one thing that I thought was pretty cool that I actually wrote in my notes, is the fact that they build the sets so they can look bigger. Yeah. I was like, well, they did a good job.
I love that. No, that
so
was great.
What happened to the rest?
and that's kind of my point too. It's just like the whole idea of a Dollman versus Demonic Toys is like, okay, they are roughly the same size, which is small. So imagine this isn't like tiny terror stalking people. This is tiny people in a gigantic world. So think of the fun you could have with the set pieces, with the action sequences, chase sequences through, like, I don't know, fucking mouse holes and stuff like that. Like, you could do all kinds of crazy fun stuff with just a little bit of time and a little bit of effort, which is why I think Dollman is the Full Moon movie I would most want to see rebooted as like a major budget blockbuster, because you put some money in that, you get the right actor in the part. It's really a funny idea, and you have a lot of room for like visual innovation. And it's just such a bummer that it didn't happen that way.
Well, I jotted the same thing down, which is one of the positives that I had, which was even though it was simple, and even though it was maybe not pushing the story forward too much, I did get a kick out of just their bodies next to a giant knife, a giant piece of toast, a giant whisk, the drawer, a giant calendar and radio, and that, like, those kinds of things. I thought, man, yeah, like that part was really fun, and some of the fun they have with force perspective, kind of fun to see a giant Jack Attack head.
Sure,
like, there were things like that, but it felt, very, very controlled, very half-baked, very tame. And it felt like there were these little seeds of ideas of like you said, the fun that they could be having with this. And those were all the things that I enjoyed about it. I enjoyed anytime we really had a giant, like, novelty-sized prop or force perspective. I was smiling because I was like, this is the silliness that I want in this. They're not doing much with them. They're just kind of set dressed with these things, but still, just to give, the impression of them being small. I thought the effort that went into that to build these big replicas of things was an avenue in which there was, more effort and thought put into, where the actual kind of story of this was going to go. And I will say one thing I liked about this movie, when you compare it to the first Demonic Toys movie, I was going to say when you compare it to the first one, but then I realized I could be referencing 3 movies.
Right. Yeah. You gotta be more specific about which first one.
I thought that, and she's not in it as much. She's definitely like a huge character, but Tracy Scoggins, Officer Gray, in the first movie, there was this, I think one of the things that took us out of it was there's this like really sort of like weird romance subplot that doesn't quite work because of the way it's written. But here, she literally is, all her role here is to be like completely over the top yelling about how the toys have come to life, and she's having fun. It looks like
Yeah.
she's playing it big, and she didn't really get the chance to do that in Demonic Toys 1. She has to kind of try to play it naturalistic because there's a love story written in, but we don't have that here.
I feel so bad because I don't even remember her character.
Yeah.
I remember the girl, but I don't remember her at all. Like, I don't know why. But
Well, I guess that's another thing.
I was like, what?
It's kind of unclear how they really go together.
Yeah.
But I thought she was able to have some fun and like scream and shout and go over the top. She almost got her own version of the, oh my God, somebody shot him. From the first Demonic Toys movie, which that line lives rent free in my head.
Yeah.
And I like Melissa Bear. It was exactly. I wish there was more of her.
She that was like a cop out death. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
I was like, why? Like I don't know, maybe the dolls would have jumped on her or something, and she's just like screaming and hollering, and like always them fight scene of dolls like on them or something.
Yeah.
I did remember though, there is a positive that we forgot, and that's Phil Fondacaro.
See, I would counter that this is a waste of Phil Fondacaro.
Oh, I'm not denying that. But what I am saying is that this movie starts off after its 17-minute opening credit sequence, and it cuts to like Phil Fondacaro sitting at a security desk while an original song by Quiet Riot plays in the background, and I was like, I kind of rubbed my hands together. I was like, all right, here we go. I can get behind this, because it's just nice to see Phil Fondacaro in these things. But he is definitely, I mean, he 100% is wasted in this movie. And speaking of wasted, the way that the demonic toys are brought back to life by Bumblood, for lack of a better word.
I didn't get that. I thought I missed, because I was staring at that, and
it's a blink and you miss it moment.
Yeah, like some boxes fell on him, and then all of a sudden his head is like split open. I'm like, how did that even happen? And then the blood just seems so weird going underneath the door. I don't know. I've never
It's like
seen
electric. Blood. Yeah, and it's like, yeah, it's kind of the version of like the dog piss bringing Freddy back to life in part 4. It's just like, yeah, we just need to get him back. All right, who gives a shit? Throw some fucking dog piss or bum blood on there. We don't care. Like, just throw it on there. Like
dog piss and bum blood. That's going to be the name.
And they just got rid of the bum. They was like, oh, let's get rid of him. He just disappeared. I was like, y'all don't need to go through all this. If you got powers to get people to disappear, why are we doing this? Just do what you need to do.
Totally. Yeah. It's like a Rube Goldberg machine to like get these dolls back to life. And that bum is played, the character name is Bum, according to IMDb.
To be clear, we're not derisively referring to him in that way. That's the name of the character.
Right. The actor's name is R.C. Bates, and you can't get this guy by me. This is the guy, the Sam the Keeper from the movie Werewolf. Which is one of the best Mystery Science Theater 3000 episodes. If you ever get a chance to watch it, he's
maybe the best.
He's the guy who owns the house that the protagonist rents, and he's got a big beard and a cigar and a rifle in his hand. And as soon as this guy uttered a word, I was like, "Oh my God, it's Sam the Keeper." Why I know the character's name is Sam the Keeper is beyond me, but here we are.
Oh, it's so good. Yeah, but I mean, again, with to circle back to Fondacaro, just because it's just one more example of kind of the missed opportunity of this movie. It feels like there's a world where there's a movie where this character pops a little bit. He's a security guard who's got kind of an inflated sense of himself, but the other security guards laugh at him because he's a little person. They don't take him seriously. So you could see why he would be tempted to kind of get into cahoots with these other characters, that he might want to, he might have like a Travis Bickle thing going on, like there's a lot of fun ways you can play that role, and he's just sort of there and then he's gone. Like,
I do remember him from Ghoulies.
Yeah. Oh,
too.
Ghoulies 2. Yeah. And he's in Troll. Is really good performance in Troll. Like he's a good actor. And we always love seeing him when he pops up in these things, and this is just not a good use of him. But this is really not a good use of anybody. I know I'm being very mean on this movie, but I'm meeting it on its level. Like, this is a movie that just kind of doesn't feel like it could be bothered to do much of anything more than even
Right.
most full moon movies. It feels
Which is
so
why
half-hearted.
I don't feel so badly falling more negatively on this one, because I feel like it's probably the sentiment that's echoed by the people in the movie, the people that made the movie. I doubt very highly that anyone involved in the making of this movie walked away from it thinking that this is the crown jewel of what they worked on. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like, and everybody's had a redemption story at some point. Like, it's easy to see, and this is, I think, the biggest problem with the movie, and we address this, but I want to kind of add a little bit to what we said before. Nobody really feels that invested, and this is the thing, like both of you have mentioned, that this is the crossover event. This should be getting most of the attention
Yeah.
to really make this a thing that pops, because you want it to hit the way those Marvel crossovers do. But I mean, if you think about it, you have a really troubled, speaking of Albert Pune from earlier, you have at the same time as this, an incredibly troubled production going on with Arcade,
Yeah.
which is drawing a lot of attention from Full Moon and its, like producers and I guess financiers and anyone involved. You have Ted Nicolau over in Romania
Mm-hmm.
using a lot of really talented crew and Full Moon alum to make Subspecies 2. And you have, like you said, I think maybe like Mandroid and Invisible, like at least in pre-production at this point, and a number of other movies that like we haven't even mentioned that are being made at the same time. And so, yeah, there's a lot. It's a turbulent time.
Yeah.
And it feels in hindsight now like this was the wrong time to attempt this crossover. Like, if they would have just maybe waited until some of these more prestige, for lack of a better term, Full Moon projects were finished and released,
Yeah.
then maybe later on we could have got that. We would have got one in Kushner Lock. I mean, obviously the budget would have been lower.
Yeah.
We do get a Puppet Master versus Demonic Toys, which I think is like reluctantly directed by Ted Nicolau,
And
about
that's
10 years after this.
Yeah, that's a Sci-Fi Channel original movie.
And
I think
that's
it's the only one they did.
It is, and it is
I didn't
rough.
see it.
We
It's
haven't
rough.
gotten to that one. I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, we keep I keep being tempted to say, yeah, and that's it for the Demonic Toys series. But then I'm like, oh no, shit, there's a Jack Attack movie, and there's 3 Baby Oopsie movies, and there's the Dollman the Demonic Toys versus Puppet Master.
I can't watch any more Baby Oopsie.
No, I can't do it.
But you know what? I wonder, as I was watching this, I was like, that doll reminds me of something, Baby Oopsie. And then I was like, why does it have that same feel from Toy Story?
Oh yeah, like one of Sid's toys.
Yeah, the Oopsie.
Oh yeah.
From number Toy Story 3.
Oh yeah, it's the one who's like Lotso Bear's like henchman.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And even that doll was creepy. I don't know. It was like the one eye was messed up. I don't know. That doll was creepy. I don't know. When I was watching this, it just kept reminding me of that one. I know that's kind of weird. But.
Part of it is okay. So I mean, Baby Oopsie. It's been a different voice actor every single time that we've run into it. So it's traditionally a woman voicing the character. This is the only time a man is voicing the character, and it's Frank Welker, who is a voice acting legend. I mean, he's Fred from Scooby-Doo. He's pretty much every animal noise you've ever heard in a movie, because that's his kind of weird gift. He can just do any animal. And they brought him in to do Baby Oopsie, and this is simultaneously like the least annoying that this voice has ever been, but also the worst it's ever, like it's the stuff coming out of its mouth is the worst I've ever heard. But the voice is like, maybe that's a little more dialed into what it should be. I still think they should have gone kind of like Baby Herman in Roger Rabbit style, where it looks like a dainty little baby doll, but it's got a gruff, like older man voice, or it's like, it's got an unpleasant, gruff, gravelly voice. Instead, they just go very childish and squeaky with it, and it's it's annoying, and it never once has Baby Oopsie said something funny.
I think that's what made it more unpleasant. Like as it was talking, and I was like, geez, like it just, I guess they maybe wanted it more doll-like.
But they never really do that, you know. It's basically Baby Oopsie is basically just like a living incarnation of a comment section. Like that's basically all it is. It's a lot of edgelordy fucking like swear words and misogyny, and then just a whole lot of gross baby sex jokes, and just like, ugh. It should be mentioned, dude, the screenwriter here is a guy named Craig Hammond. I looked him up. He's probably best known, if you're a massive film nerd around our age, as the guy who starred in and co-wrote My Best Friend's Birthday, which is the short film debut of Quentin Tarantino. So he worked with Tarantino. He co-wrote his very first feature with Quentin Tarantino. And then around this time, Tarantino is, what's he doing? Oh, he's submitting Pulp Fiction to Cannes. And Craig Hammond is writing Demonic Toys, or Dollman versus Demonic Toys. So their careers diverged a little bit. Yeah.
A little.
And Ivotres, I just wanted to say this. I mean, you expressed some dislike of the Baby Oopsie character. Steve has been very vocal about his dislike of Baby Oopsie. I myself am not a fan. So we wouldn't dare ask you to come back for a Baby Oopsie movie.
Yeah.
But we have a willing guest already scheduled for something that we're calling Baby Oopsie Palooza.
Yeah.
Where this guest chose these movies, and we're doing all three of them in a single episode in an undisclosed future date.
So I can tell you the date is, I'm looking at my calendar. It says it is, I've already highlighted it. Worst day of my life. Yeah, that's fun. Interesting. It's weird that it's already on there. Yeah, it's gonna be bad. I forget what those are. Those might be like web series.
Okay, but I've never seen any of the Oopsies. So does it still have that same foul mouth?
Yes, that's
presumably.
Oh no,
that's a constant thing. Like, because Demonic Toys 2, like the official sequel, didn't come out until, what was it, like 2010?
2010,
like that. Yeah, it was a very long delayed sequel. And Baby Oopsie still had the annoying voice and the foul mouth in that one too. So I think it's just kind of built in with the character at this point. But I think that is just always going to be the thing that kind of kills this franchise.
There's nothing wrong with having like a foul mouth and cursing, and but when it comes down, I don't know how the other movies are, but when it comes down to like, spread them and all this stuff, it's like, and then like you see it, it's like, wait.
Yeah, this is the first time.
First of all, this baby doll is like huge. How is this going to work?
This is there's a moment in this movie where the baby doll refers to Nurse Ginger's boobs as all-day suckers.
Oh, Lord.
Dear Lord. And I mean, if I'm wrong, is this the first time like Baby Oopsie has worked like really blue? Is this the first time it's gotten very like sexual? Because I think it's mostly just calling people dead.
100%. And I'll tell you why. Because I had a little bit more good grace toward Baby Oopsie after the first Demonic Toys than you did, Steve. Mm-hmm. You kind of came right out of the gate like, I hate this character. I hate everything about this. And I was like, I'm with you. But the first line that Baby Oopsie utters in a slightly different voice in the first Demonic Toys is this: "Hi, you fat fuck." To a security guard.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm a simple man. I was laughing.
Look.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Right. And then she says, I can walk, I can talk, I can even shit my pants. Can you shit your pants?
Right. Oh yeah.
That.
Yeah.
See, that's good. That's good.
Right. See, I'm longing for that wit in this movie. Like that's fucking George Bernard Shaw right there. That's like that. I wish that was in this. We get nothing like that. Even the baby doll jokes, which are all like baby doll puns, which are already low hanging fruit, do not land. It's already the stupidest joke you could possibly think of, and it doesn't make sense. Yeah.
It tickled me so bad. Low hanging fruit that did not land. I was like, where's the fucking? Oh, I'm sorry. I was gonna say, where did it go? Like. It just tickled me. I've never heard that before. I'm gonna have to use that.
I'm notorious for mixing my metaphors all over the place, so I apologize.
That was a good one. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all kind of land in the same place, which is where this is a botched attempt, by and large, to attempt to cross over, these different characters that they've introduced in a handful of more successful movies. I really like Dollman. There are things I like about the first Demonic Toys, and I like Bad Channels quite a bit.
Yeah, that's
And
kind of my
so
favorite of these. Yeah.
to know you're going to have elements of those movies coming together, but you only see a second of Charlie Spradling, a second of Martha Quinn in stock footage.
Mhm.
What you get of Ginger for a large portion of the movie is really unpleasant. You don't get enough of Officer Gray in the movie, despite the fact that Tracy Scoggins is giving a pretty fun, over the top performance for the time that she's on screen. And the biggest crime of all is that you waste a Fonda Caro and a Thomerson here.
Yeah.
Like, you really just don't get. I mean, Tim Thomerson gets a couple of decent Brick Bardo type lines in, but even the puns and the delivery, they just seem a little tortured, a little tired.
Yeah.
Like, he's not committed to it either. And he's usually somebody whose presence alone will lift something up. This just felt like it had so many things kind of working against it.
More action, like more action. I mean, things were happening, but I felt like I wish there was more, like, I don't know, action sequences or something. They could have used most of that time.
Well,
for that.
Like Steve said before, they could. You start to think, well, what can we do in this world if we have small people versus small toys? How much fun can we have with that? And I will say, I think there are a couple of fun scenes of them running through the vent, where it cuts from angles, and the way it's kind of shot, where the camera's placed is kind of almost like a Dutch angle a few times. And they're obviously reusing the same like piece of set for the vent there, but that needed to be the first of like 3 or 4 set pieces. Like, that needed to be just one of them. Instead, it's almost like the entire denouement of the movie takes place in that, and that's its big set piece. And it's like, it's not quite enough. Like, I think it's neat. It looks cool. Again, I like the force perspective. I like the big props and big sets. It would just be more fun if that was like the first place that they were, and then that led them into another area where there could be, a large problem. Trying to think what it would be like, them walking, scaling kitchen cabinets or something. I don't know.
Yeah. And again, this is, 3 goofballs on a podcast 30 years later just spitballing, and we're kind of coming up with more rich ideas than this movie seems interested in offering. And that's where it makes it frustrating for me. Like, I know you could probably do this with any full moon movie, but most of them, you go along for the ride because you can feel that there's a heart behind it. You can feel that there's some energy behind it, even if it doesn't all work, if it's not all perfect, if some of it's pretty cringy, like, you still go with it because it's within a fun spirit. And this just does not feel like it has any of that. Just feels like an amalgamation of a lot of better properties that just don't come together at all. And we may have officially talked about this movie longer than the length of this movie.
Absolutely, if you take the credit sequences out.
Yeah.
We'll see. If we're not there, I'm just gonna pad it out. Like, I'm gonna record like some extra
no, Steve, no. Go back to our episodes on Bad Channels, Demonic Toys, and Dollman, and just splice in the important parts.
That's too much work. I'm just gonna loosely describe it in a monologue, and people can catch up.
What I like is, like, sometimes in preparation for these, we go back and we read the chapters of the book, we watch the movie, we take notes, but and we might scour the internet for any other sources or insights, but there's a video zone for this, and I want to know why. Like, because there's a video zone for Demonic Toys, there's a video zone for Dollman, and a video zone for Bad Channels. Like, I don't think there's enough left over a movie to warrant a video zone behind the scenes featurette like that would be on the end of the VHS for this one. It just seems like a waste.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Steve, you're right. Now that we've officially hit probably the mark where we've been talking for longer than the movie went, I'll hand it to Ivotres for any final thoughts that you might have about this movie that you chose, and where
don't
can we
put that on
mail your
me.
apologies?
Somebody you
That
chose.
you chose, that you
I have-
directed and wrote
okay,
this movie.
yeah.
No, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's my fault because I was looking at the list and I was like, oh, well, I don't remember this one. And for good reason,
Mhm.
because it was painful. It
Look,
was,
sometimes you roll the dice and they come up
yeah,
snake eyes, what can you do?
man, it sure did. And it was, you know, but it did have some things I did like. I don't. I like the whole doll set. I mean, not the I like the whole like how big things were.
Yeah,
The
like the forced perspectives.
yeah. They
Yeah,
did
yeah.
it such a like. There were so many things that could have made this film like better. I mean, it's not going to be Oscar worthy, but it could have been entertaining, and I just was not entertained
Yeah.
whatsoever. It felt forced. It felt tired. It felt like, oh, let's just hurry up and do this so we could do that type thing. And then to see Charles Band name up there, was written and directed. I mean, and I met him, and he's the sweetest, nicest guy, and he is the reason why I did started doing interviews.
Really?
He's the number one reason.
That's amazing.
The first person that I chatted with. I didn't interview. I just chatted with him. It was at a convention, and I saw Full Moon Features. They have all their stuff out, and I saw all the Puppet Master characters, like the main ones. And I was like, "Oh, this is cool. I would love to talk to the person who created these because I have some questions." And they said, "Wait," and they walked over, and they said, "Charles." And the name clicked, but I was like, maybe it's because backwards. And he turned around, and I was like, wait, what? And he just walked over. Hey, how you doing? I'm Charles Band. And I was like, oh my God. And we talked, and that's why I have that. So he gave me
we can see
the very first day that I talked to him, and I've had it ever since. And so he is the reason why this is still going. I mean, so I can actually say
we've heard a lot of stories about Charlie Band in that way. Like people pretty much like nobody has a bad thing to say about him, even when his business practices got a little mercenary. Like everybody kept coming back and working with him. Like he's got a charm to him that keeps drawing people in. So yeah, no, we've heard that many times that he's just like the nicest dude in real life.
Yeah. He recently, well, I don't know about recently, but his brother is super nice. I've met his brother.
Yeah.
Richard.
Richard does great music.
And then when I did the oh my God, what did I do? The Reanimator. I did a Reanimator review, and then I asked Barbara Crampton to help me. And in the music, that is the music he allowed me to use, and I had to ask. So he let me use, like, with his permission, for her part in the movie review. So I was like, oh, it's so sweet, so nice.
Yeah, we've heard a lot of really nice stories about both of the Band brothers, and they've been, they've collaborated on a ton of stuff. And I think Richard Band has composed some pretty memorable scores to Charles Band movies, and Charles Band has produced and directed a lot of really worthwhile things. Some legitimately really good films and some fun B-movie and drive-in fodder. This one, unfortunately, just doesn't really fall into that category.
No category.
But we were excited to get you back on the show, Ivotres, and I'm glad we toughed it out so we could at least take a couple of shots at this one.
Next time I'll pick a better.
We'll curate. We'll find something really good.
But that's my fault.
Aliens is good.
I should have taken the list to look at the trailers and look them up and okay. But no, I was like, I'm just going to choose that one. I just want to see. I'm going in, blind, and man, I see the light. yeah,
for sure.
But other than that, I'm glad that it brought me to you guys, because
Well,
it was the last one was fun, and I was like, oh, this is fun.
The
So,
feeling is
regardless.
definitely mutual.
yeah, absolutely. So where can people find all of your stuff, all of your YouTube, your writing, all of that?
I have well, it's so weird. It's so weird being on this side.
Right. You're usually asking people that one. Yeah.
So it's like I'm never prepared. Horror movies and beyond. You could find me everywhere. Actually, that'd be the only thing you type. You could Google and everything pops up about me. So
Nice.
you can find me on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, X, whatever, and Threads. Now I decided to go into that.
Okay.
But that's pretty cool. I don't know if you guys do Threads, but
we started it, and then that place turned into a cesspool so quickly.
Well, it's my fault.
I think it's who you follow.
It's not just about who you follow. It's about stuff that you engage with.
Yeah.
And I made the mistake of clicking on a couple of the very like pointedly clickbaity posts.
Yeah.
And now everything is just awful. And I need to figure out a way to get that algorithm back to see normal things people are posting on Threads.
Yeah, because I see nothing but horror related movies. People,
oh yeah.
They introduce me to new followers and actors that are in horror movies or thrillers. So I don't see any of that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
no,
I tend to be pretty pessimistic about social media in general. So I think I'm inclined to dislike most social media platforms, but I'm working on it.
Well, speaking of social media, if you like what we do on this show, you can jump onto Apple Podcasts or Spotify, leave us a little 5-star rating, maybe a brief review if you feel so inclined to do so. You can see what's up with us and follow us on Instagram at puppetmasters_castlefreaks. You can follow me at _Giallo_Jerry or Steve at Minotaur Matador. Like we said, we are on Instagram. We are on X. I will be going back on Threads to post again too, and we will put our audio files of these on YouTube and hopefully start developing some kind of YouTube content for our channel as well. But we're not the only podcast that Steve would like to take this moment to promote. Steve, what else have you got going on?
Well, I'm also the host of a show called Cinema Arcade, where we are watching movies and then playing the video games based on those movies. So we've got a lot of fun stuff coming up. This one's coming out just shortly after our Halloween month. We did a whole month of horror films, so I don't know what November is going to be dedicated to. You will have to tune in to find out. And you'll also have to tune in next week to hear us talk about another movie. This is a film called Dream Maniac. That's all one word, similar to Cinema Arcade. Dream Maniac is one word. Gotta love them portmanteaus. This is a 1986 Empire film. I've never seen this, but I think based on the title and based on the cover art, it's kind of riffing on Nightmare on Elm Street, or at least getting in on that dream monster cash cow.
Somewhat.
Yeah, okay. It looks weird. I'm excited to get into it, though.
Oh, it's weird. All right. And so make sure that you stay tuned next week to check out our show on Dream Maniac. I'm already looking forward to Steve's reaction because it is a weird one and it is a fun one. Thank you again to Ivotres Littles. Check out her Horror Movies and Beyond channel, and we will see you guys next time for Dream Maniac. So long.
Bye.